Conor McGregor's ex-bodyguard signed the strictest NDA in celebrity history, but after what happened last month, he decided the world needs to know the truth. His revelations will leave you speechless. Picture this: it's a quiet Tuesday evening in Dublin, and Marcus O'Brien, a 42-year-old former Irish Special Forces operative, sits across from me in a small cafe far from the city centre. His hands shake slightly as he orders his third coffee of the day. For 8 years, this man was Conor McGregor's shadow, his most trusted protector, the only person allowed in every room, every meeting, every private moment of the fighter's life. But something happened last month that changed everything. Something so shocking that Marcus decided to break his silence, despite knowing it could cost him millions in legal penalties and potentially put his own safety at risk. People think they know Conor, Marcus begins, his Irish accent thick with emotion. They see the flashy cars, the expensive suits, the trash talk. But what I witnessed behind closed doors, that's a completely different man. A man the world has never seen. The non-disclosure agreement Marcus signed when he became Conor's head of security in 2015 was unlike anything legal experts had ever seen. The document, spanning 47 pages, contained clauses that prevented him from discussing not just Conor's private life, but even the most basic details of his daily routines, his relationships, his business dealings, and most importantly, his vulnerabilities. The penalty for breaking the agreement? A staggering $2 million fine, plus potential criminal charges for violation of privacy laws. But after 8 years of loyalty, something happened that Marcus couldn't stay silent about. But before we reveal what finally broke his silence, you need to understand the incredible journey that brought these two men together. Marcus O'Brien wasn't your typical celebrity bodyguard. After serving 12 years in the Irish Defence Forces, including multiple tours with elite special operations units, he had been working private security for high-net-worth individuals across Europe. His reputation for discretion and effectiveness had made him one of the most sought-after protection specialists in the industry. When Conor's management team reached out in early 2015, Marcus initially declined the offer. He had worked with athletes before and found them to be demanding, unpredictable, and often more interested in having intimidating props than actual security professionals. But Conor's approach was different. During their first meeting at a Dublin hotel, the fighter didn't talk about image or intimidation. Instead, he asked detailed questions about threat assessment, emergency protocols, and family protection strategies. Marcus realized he was dealing with someone who understood that real security was about prevention, not performance. The first thing that surprised me about Conor was how genuinely concerned he was about his family's safety, Marcus recalls. This wasn't some ego trip about having a tough guy follow him around. He had legitimate concerns about what success might bring, and he wanted professional protection. The threats were real and increasing. As Conor's fame exploded following his featherweight title win, the disturbing messages, stalking incidents, and aggressive confrontations had become a daily reality. What the public never knew was how these threats had begun affecting not just Conor, but his entire family. Marcus's job quickly evolved beyond traditional bodyguard duties. He became Conor's confidant, his strategic advisor, and in many ways, the person who helped the fighter navigate the dangerous waters of global celebrity while maintaining his sanity and protecting those he loved most. And what Marcus witnessed during those 8 years would challenge everything people think they know about Conor McGregor. The Conor McGregor the world sees as a character, Marcus explains, leaning forward with intensity. It's brilliant marketing, and Conor is a genius at playing that role. But the real man behind that persona is nothing like what people imagine. Marcus describes countless nights when Conor would spend hours on the phone with young fans who had reached out through various channels. Not for publicity, not for social media content, but because he genuinely wanted to encourage kids who were struggling with confidence, bullying, or family problems. I watched him talk a 16-year-old kid out of making a terrible decision, Marcus reveals. This kid from Cork had messaged Conor saying he was thinking about dropping out of school and getting involved with some dangerous people. Conor spent 2 hours on the phone with him, sharing his own struggles growing up, talking about the importance of education and making smart choices. But these conversations never became public knowledge. Conor insisted that his charitable work and personal connections remain private, believing that real kindness shouldn't be performed for cameras or recognition. The contrast between public Conor and private Conor was most evident in how he treated his staff and training partners. While the media persona was all about dominance and superiority, Marcus witnessed a man who showed incredible loyalty and generosity to everyone in his inner circle. People have no idea how much money Conor has quietly given away, Marcus continues. I'm talking about millions of dollars to people who helped him along the way, to gyms that were struggling, to fighters who couldn't afford proper medical care. He never talks about it, never promotes it, never claims tax benefits from it. But the most shocking revelation was still coming, and it would explain why Marcus finally decided to break his silence. The incident that changed everything happened exactly 4 weeks ago, during what should have been a routine evening at Conor's Dublin mansion. Marcus had been providing security for a private business meeting between Conor and several potential investors for a new venture. Everything seemed normal, Marcus remembers, his expression growing darker. The meeting was going well, everyone was getting along, discussing numbers and partnerships. Then one of the investors made a comment about Conor's family that crossed a line. Marcus won't repeat exactly what was said, but his reaction makes it clear that the comment was deeply inappropriate and threatening. What happened next revealed something about Conor that even Marcus, after 8 years, hadn't fully understood. I expected Conor to explode, to throw the guy out, maybe even get physical, Marcus explains. But instead, he got very quiet, very calm. He looked at this investor and said, "I think we're done here." Then he walked the man to the door personally and told him very politely that he was no longer welcome in his home. But the story doesn't end there. What Marcus discovered over the following days would shake his faith in everything he thought he knew about loyalty, friendship, and the price of celebrity. But here's where the story takes a turn that will shock you to your core. Within 48 hours of that meeting, Marcus began noticing unusual activity around Conor's properties and businesses. People were asking questions about security protocols, daily routines, and family schedules. The kind of questions that set off every alarm bell in a protection specialist's mind. Marcus's investigation revealed that the investor who had been ejected from the meeting hadn't just been offended by Conor's reaction. He had been systematically gathering intelligence about Conor's private life, his business dealings, and his family's movements. This wasn't some random business disagreement, Marcus reveals. This was a coordinated effort to gather information that could be used to harm Conor, his family, or his business interests. The meeting had been a setup from the beginning. The discovery that someone had infiltrated Conor's inner circle with malicious intent was devastating enough. But what Marcus learned next would force him to make the most difficult decision of his professional life. During his investigation, Marcus discovered that the threat wasn't coming from just one individual. There was a network of people, including some who had been considered trusted associates, who had been feeding information to parties interested in damaging Conor's reputation and business empire. I realized that Conor was surrounded by people who were betraying his trust for money, Marcus explains. People he had helped, people he had been generous with, people he considered friends. They were selling information about his private moments, his family, his vulnerabilities. The betrayal cut deep because Marcus knew how much Conor valued loyalty above everything else. Despite his public persona of confidence and invincibility, the real Conor was someone who formed deep emotional connections with people he trusted, and those betrayals were destroying him from the inside. Before we continue with this incredible story of loyalty and betrayal, make sure you're subscribed to Notorious Stories and hit that like button. We dive deep into the most shocking and untold stories of Conor McGregor's life, from his biggest victories to his most challenging moments. Drop a comment below and let us know, what other Conor McGregor secrets would you like us to investigate? The truth about the Notorious one is always more fascinating than what you see in the headlines. Marcus faced an impossible choice. His professional obligation was to protect Conor from all threats, including the ones that came from within his own circle. But exposing the betrayals would mean revealing information that his NDA strictly prohibited him from discussing. "I spent weeks trying to figure out how to handle this situation," Marcus admits. "I couldn't tell Conor about the investigation without admitting I had been monitoring people in his inner circle. I couldn't provide him with the protection he needed without violating my confidentiality agreement." The breaking point came when Marcus discovered that one of the information brokers had been recording private conversations in Conor's home using sophisticated surveillance equipment. Not just business discussions, but intimate family moments, personal struggles, and vulnerable conversations that no one should ever hear. "When I realized they were recording his children, that's when I knew I had to act," Marcus says, his voice filled with anger and determination. "There are lines you don't cross, no matter how much money is involved." Marcus made a decision that would end his career as Conor's protector but potentially save the fighter's family from something much worse. He decided to tell Conor everything, regardless of the legal consequences. And Conor's reaction to learning about the betrayals would reveal the true character of the man behind the Notorious persona. "I've never seen Conor cry before," Marcus reveals. "But when I showed him the evidence of who had been betraying him, he broke down completely. Not from anger, but from heartbreak. These weren't just employees or business associates, these were people he loved, people he considered family." The list of betrayers included a longtime training partner who had been selling details about Conor's fighting techniques to opposing camps. A trusted accountant who had been providing financial information to competitors. Even a close friend from his childhood who had been recording conversations and selling them to tabloid journalists. But the most devastating betrayal came from someone Marcus describes only as someone who had been at Conor's dinner table hundreds of times, someone whose children played with Conor's children. Conor's response to these revelations surprised even Marcus, who thought he knew the fighter better than anyone. Instead of seeking revenge or public exposure, Conor's first concern was making sure these people's families weren't harmed by their actions, Marcus explains. He quietly severed the relationships, implemented new security protocols, and moved on. He never tried to destroy anyone's reputation or career, even though they had tried to destroy his. This response convinced Marcus that breaking his NDA was the right choice, even though it would cost him financially and professionally. He realized that the world deserved to know about the real character of the man they had been judging based on carefully crafted public performances. But there's more to this story that will completely change how you see Conor McGregor. During the process of cleaning house and securing his inner circle, Conor made a decision that revealed the true depth of his character. Rather than becoming suspicious and paranoid, he chose to become more generous and open with the people who had proven their loyalty. After everything that happened, Conor could have built walls around himself, Marcus observes. Instead, he brought the people who had remained loyal even closer. He increased everyone's salaries, improved their benefits, and made sure they knew how much he valued their dedication. Marcus was offered a significant raise and an even more comprehensive role in Conor's organization. But he made the difficult decision to step away, knowing that his investigation and the way he had handled the situation had fundamentally changed the dynamic of their relationship. "Conor never blamed me for investigating his inner circle," Marcus clarifies. "If anything, he was grateful that someone was looking out for him and his family. But I knew that I could never go back to just being his bodyguard. I had seen too much, learned too much about the cost of the life he's built." Marcus's final weeks with Conor were spent helping transition security responsibilities to a new team and ensuring that the protective measures he had put in place would continue working effectively. The decision to speak publicly about his experiences wasn't made lightly. Marcus consulted with lawyers, considered the financial implications, and spent months wrestling with the ethical dimensions of breaking his confidentiality agreement. "I realized that staying silent was actually doing a disservice to Conor," Marcus explains. "The world thinks he's this arrogant, selfish person who only cares about money and fame. But the man I protected for 8 years is generous, thoughtful, and deeply committed to his family and community. And here's the final revelation that proves everything you think you know about Conor McGregor is wrong." Marcus reveals that Conor had been planning to step away from fighting much earlier than anyone knew, not because of declining skills or motivation, but because he wanted to focus on building something more meaningful than just a fighting legacy. The business ventures, the investments, the technology projects, none of that was about making more money, Marcus explains. Conor already had more money than he could spend in 3 lifetimes. This was about building something that would outlast his fighting career and create opportunities for other people. The whiskey business, the sports investments, even the real estate acquisitions were all part of a larger plan to create sustainable businesses that would employ hundreds of people and contribute to Ireland's economy for decades to come. He talks about legacy constantly, Marcus reveals. But not the kind of legacy people think. He wants to be remembered as someone who lifted other people up, who created opportunities, who showed that success is about more than just personal achievement. Marcus's decision to break his silence wasn't just about exposing betrayals or defending Conor's character. It was about ensuring that when people write the story of Conor McGregor, they understand the full picture of who he really is and what he has accomplished beyond the octagon. Today, Marcus works as an independent security consultant, helping other high-profile individuals navigate the complex challenges of celebrity and success. He maintains no contact with Conor's organization and has declined multiple offers to write a tell-all book about his experiences. I said what I needed to say, Marcus concludes. The world deserved to know the truth about a man who has been misunderstood and misrepresented. Conor McGregor isn't perfect, but he's nothing like the person people think he is. The revelations from Conor's former bodyguard paint a picture of a man who has been forced to play a character for so long that people have forgotten there's a real person underneath. A person who struggles with trust, who values loyalty above everything else, and who has been quietly building something much more significant than just a fighting career. Marcus O'Brien's decision to break his silence, despite the personal and financial costs, provides a rare glimpse into the private world of one of the most misunderstood figures in modern sports. His revelations challenge everything we think we know about fame, loyalty, and the price of success. The man who protected Conor McGregor's secrets for 8 years ultimately decided that the most important secret was the truth about who Conor really is. And that truth, as Marcus discovered, is far more impressive than any persona or public image could ever be. If you enjoyed this incredible story of loyalty and revelation, make sure you're subscribed to Notorious Stories and hit that like button. We dive deep into the most shocking and untold stories of Conor McGregor's life, from his biggest victories to his most challenging moments. Drop a comment below and let us know, what other Conor McGregor secrets would you like us to investigate? The truth about the Notorious One is always more fascinating than what you see in the headlines.